Hey, everybody, let's listen to some music. Let's do this. All right, different perspective here. There we go. That's pretty good. Cool, let's do this. Here we go. Who is up first? Oh, first off, I have to say this every time. I just feel like it's worth saying. Just my opinion about all these songs, and also that it's not. We do have like a lot of songs in the queue, as we always do. I think there's something like 180 songs in the queue right now. So it's gonna, if you submitted something recently, it's not gonna play this week. But don't be discouraged. The whole point of this is not to have your song individually spun. The purpose of this is to learn from like just generally what is being looked for when we're talking about like for sync. It's just my opinion on these things, but I've been in the game for a while, and I think it's helpful to get my perspective on things. And then as always, you should be getting resources from other folks as well, getting feedback from the groups. And that's all I got to say about that. Is just like, have patience if you really want to have your song spun, but also that's not the whole point of this. The point of this is just to learn kind of what is being looked for and what's being looked for, mainly from like a production standpoint, and just also from like a top lining standpoint, songwriting standpoint, helping you all just like get stuff a little better dialed in. And then we do sign songs off of this sometimes. So really looking forward to, maybe we sign some songs today. So let's give it a listen. First up, we got Heather Black. This is a Silent Star. Let me know, by the way, you can always let me know if for some reason a song already got spun. I think the title looks familiar. I may have heard this before, but we'll give it a spin here unless it's been spun on this before. Let me just check and make sure she doesn't have anything else in here. Nope, only song. Okay, cool. So we'll get the link, save this so that we can, and I'll paste in before the session's over. I'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of the list of all the songs that got spun today. So if you want to connect with anybody, it's definitely a good hour and a half here where you can kind of scout people out and see like, hey, who do I want to work with? What do I like, and so on and so forth. But here we go. Let's go ahead and get this going. I'll share this. Here we go. Share. Nice.
So my name out loud. Look to them for the map to tell me how. How did I end up here? Life has brought me to my knees. I try to hear them whisper, this is where I need to be, but I should know. Oh, here we go. This is my path, I'll choose my own ending. Stars won't align just cause I am begging. I write the words that fill my own pages. If they're blank, there's no one else to blame. Let's deflect the stormy lights. Look to my reflection for that girl I want to be. They're blank, there's no one else to blame. No one else to blame. No one else to blame.
All right, well, cool. I really appreciate the building of like a real it's a track like real instruments. It's pretty great. In terms of like I appreciate the I feel like that's something that not everybody can bring to a production. A lot of people just do stuff in the box. I think it's cool to try to track real instruments. I feel like the things that I was thinking like immediately was what is the reference with this, the modern reference with this, because like I'm having a hard time kind of seeing like where in the modern licensing landscape a song like this would fit necessarily. I feel like the vocalist, I really like the timbre of her voice. I really like, I feel like her voice could work really cool in like an indie rock track. I feel like this song in terms of like just the way in which it's produced and the way it sounds kind of dated to me. It sounds kind of like a dated like acoustic rock. It almost, there are a couple moments where I felt like it almost had like almost even like a Stone Temple Pilots kind of vibe to it, just in terms of like the type of song that it was kind of reminded me of. And I felt like production-wise, some of the stacks. So there were a couple things production-wise too that I noticed. There were a lot of like stuff was kind of out of the pocket rhythmically with some of the instruments, which was noticeable. And then the other thing was like some of the stacks, the vocal stacking. When I was talking about, I've been talking a couple times today about how it's important to have really tight vocal stacks. This is kind of a perfect example of what happens when you don't have tight stacks on your vocals. They kind of lose their power a little bit, and then the end lines, the end consonants kind of flam with each other. And when I'm saying flamming is a term for like a couple things that don't exactly happen at the same time. It's like it can be a cool drum effect to like have like two snare hits that happen, but they're kind of like slightly off. But then there's also so many times where you don't want flamming, and this is one of those cases where I feel like, just in terms of vocal stacking, you want them to be really tight and glued together, and it's not really happening here. So what ends up happening, it sounds a little bit sloppy, and it sounds a little bit, yes, it just sounds a little phasey to me as well. So I think like, overall, I really dig the attempt to record real instruments. And I really, I think some of the hook ideas were cool too. Like just the melodies I thought were good. I really also liked, here's another thing I really liked was that there was a difference in like the melodic, there was an interval leap in the choruses that I liked, and I felt like that gave like kind of a nice dynamic, like at least with the top line of the vocal, I thought was great. So there were some cool things that were happening, and then just I think like production wise feels a little dated, feels a little like the execution a little bit off in terms of the timing of things, in terms of like the recording the vocals, and yeah, it would just be interesting to see what the modern references were for this, because I think that will help, when you have those, will help kind of inform like the production and the writing probably a little bit as well. So yeah, actually like Veruca Salt, actually the timbre of her voice reminds me of her too. I think that's why I was thinking kind of indie rock kind of, yeah, there's definitely like, I think that like with the right kind of vocal effect too, her voice could be very effective in like more like of a rock, like no acoustic guitar, like more like just straight up rock kind of stuff. But then again, I would make those decisions based off of like references that are modern, and stuff that's been used in placements recently. So that's my take on this one. Yeah, thanks for submitting it. Yeah, that part of the hook in particular reminds me of some Stone Temple Pilots song that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But it kind of reminded me in a good way, though. Like I like that. I mean, I love all those albums. They're great. Let's see. Peter Brynjolfsson. I'm sorry. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name too much there. Probably did, but I apologize for that. This looks like it's a final master unreleased for subsequent licensing. Utilized LA singers and musicians. Okay, just okay, cool. Southern style, Southern country soul. Okay, cool. Looking for feedback on production, vocal, and song dynamics. Please listen to the last minute of the song. Sure. Let's give it a spin. Let me copy and paste this over so don't forget. All right. Boom. And then where is it? Oh. Hang on just a sec. There we go. Give it its own window. All right, cool. Here we go. Got some lyrics here too. Cool.
There you were across the table, watching the TV screen. On came a child who gave you a smile. She looked battered and diseased. It was too late to change the channel, too late to turn away. I could see you squirming. It was just confirming that you had caught her gaze. Did she move you? Did you feel her pain inside? Nothing could quite prepare you. Feelings that might not spare you. Did she move you? Just like she moved me. She could have a village girl on her own, tattered sneakers and worn out clothes. But for the grace of God, she could have been me. She could have been you. Oh, did she move you? Nothing can quite prepare you for feelings that might not spare you. Did she move you? Just like she moved me.
Cool. I think it's a pretty song. I think it's got a beautiful message. I feel like it's well produced, has good players on it. But I feel also that the production's dated. I feel like it's got that acoustic rock kind of vibe to it. It's got kind of an older sounding like acoustic rock vibe. The lyrics are super specific, which makes it really hard to place this in any scene that isn't like also really specific. I think in terms of the chorus, I kind of wanted a little bit more of like a lift in some way, probably from the vocal. The vocal does kind of take a little bit of a lift at some point, but it kind of comes in like almost like flatter than the verse, which kind of felt a little. It didn't really feel like this is the chorus. I wasn't really. I didn't feel like a strong sense that the chorus was coming. So there wasn't like this anticipation that I felt, and I felt like overall the dynamic of the track, it has kind of like a flat dynamic to it in terms of like the fullness of it. I feel like it really kind of comes in strong with kind of most of the elements that are in there, and just kind of chugs along in a way. It sounds great. You know, I feel like it's really well produced. You know, in terms of like the quality of the instrument, the people playing the instruments, the vocalist sounds great. But yeah, I think another thing that I was thinking when I was listening to this is where the edit points were for this. I feel like there's really the song just keeps going and there's no logical places to really like that this is where an edit would make sense in terms of like locking it to a picture. I felt like also that maybe the top line was a hair too busy too. Once again, it's just like I talk about this a lot. It's like having enough room in more of a relationship between the vocal and the track, so that there's like kind of some give and take. I did hear there was an instrumental section, kind of a guitar solo kind of thing, which is not a super modern move either. Like guitar solos are not so much a popular thing in most modern music right now, unless it's like an indie rock band or some type of band that it kind of makes more sense for a guitar solo to be in. This feels like just kind of like, yeah, I saw somebody saying like the Linda Ronstadt kind of vibe. I totally get that. You know, it's got a little bit of that, but and I think it's cool, you know, but it's also, I think that the chances of them looking for something that's specifically like this, it's going to be very few opportunities for something like this. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that. I think it's really well produced. It's has good players. The production sounds dated, even though it's produced well. So yeah, I think it all goes back, and I think this is just so important, is going back to your references. What are your modern references from like the last 2 or 3 years that were produced in the last 2 or 3 years that you know, when you have that kind of in your sights and set that as the target, then it's going to inform your songwriting. It's going to inform who's producing. Can the person who's producing like really get you that sound, that modern sound that you're looking for? And then you just you're basically working backwards from like what the target is, versus like creating and then going into the studio and being super excited because you have like a beautiful song that like, you know, obviously has like a lot of meaning and I really resonate with like so much of the messaging of the song. It's a beautiful sentiment, but I feel like, you know, it's just going to be really hard to, like in its current state, to land something I would feel. Yeah. Let's see. Like when you said sights your hand took the camera out of focus, neat effect. I'm sure, Lindo, you know, we go through all types of songs in any given listening session. So I'm sure we'll be getting to some stuff that's like more jingly sounding at some point for sure. So yeah, don't sweat it. All right. So thank you, Peter, for sharing that, by the way. All right. So next up, we got Bethany Petch is next. Unfinished production, close to being done. Hang on a sec. Close to being done. Hopefully want feedback on sync relevance and production quality to help make tweaks for final mix. Okay, cool. Currently being produced. Okay. All right. So, oh, that's cool. Bethany Petch Music, BPM stands for BPM. That's pretty neat. I like that. Like, so you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. Give me just a sec. Let me copy and paste her link over. So we got that for everybody to check out afterwards. All right. Boom. All right, let's do this. Here we go. All right. Yeah, see? Got the BPM here. Here we go.
Some start with more, some start with less, all stumbling through the wilderness, looking for a way to shine. Some start with more, some start with less, all stumbling through the wilderness, looking for a way to shine, sifting through the pain and hope, trying to find which way to go, working hard to find our light. We're learning how our time is now. We live, we love, we try to make the most out of this life.
I love a lot of what's going on here. I feel like the mix needs work. I feel like the mix is one of the things that's really holding this one back. I feel like I love how fast it kind of starts in. It doesn't like really, it just kind of cuts to the chase, just jumps in, kind of interrupts like after, like I think it's like after one bar the vocal comes in. It's pretty cool. I feel like the vocals when they first come in, they're a little buried, and then when the chorus comes in, the vocals just kind of take over the track. Well, you know, my vocal mic or my microphone is pretty much turned up all the way from what I see. I can see if I can do it a little bit more, but yeah, maybe it's in the Zoom's preferences because I've never had this problem before. Nobody's ever told me I'm not loud enough. It's turned up all the way. Yeah, I think some people hear me fine, and some people are saying that they can't hear me enough. You know, I think I'll just try to speak up a little bit because I don't want to. I feel like it's already kind of maxed out. I'm going to be getting I have a cloud lifter on the way that should help with some of this. See if I can turn this up. I don't think that really makes a difference. Does that help at all? Can you guys hear me better now? Okay. Well, let's see. Is that good? Too much? Okay. Well, we'll just roll with that. Feels like it's feeding back a little bit for me, but it's okay. I think I can roll with it. Okay, so next, so getting back to the song, yeah. So I feel like as far as yeah, mix issues, there's some mix issues. Okay, cool. Well, I think it's taken care of, so good deal. Getting back to the song though, which is way more important, I feel. The top line I feel like is really catchy, and it soars up. I love in the chorus, like when it does take off, it's really nice. It's the most memorable hook in the whole song for me, but I feel like the other parts are also hooky, which is good. I feel like the anticipation and the buildup could be even more so. It could be. I feel like there's also like there's some mix issues here, but there's also some production issues as well for me, just in terms of like just some of the selection of some of the samples. I feel like the selection of some of the synth sounds, they kind of don't resonate. I love a couple of the things that ARP thing that happens in the end of the second verse is really cool. It sounds great. It's like it's clean, kind of like electric kind of thing that I think sounds modern and clean and nice. But I think like one of the drums, I think it's one of the drum things that comes in the second verse I don't love. Yeah, just the sound of it it sounds a little canned to me. And then there's also just where the mix kind of plays in, like the vocals really take over the song in parts, and then you don't really feel the track so much. And then I think that's, those are my main points with this. Without like digging, it's hard to dig in too deep when you're just giving it one listen. But there are also, like, I feel like there's way more stuff going on right with this song than stuff that needs addressing. So I feel like you're really on the right track with this, and you just need to keep working on it, keep working on the production on it. Maybe like reevaluate your choices in terms of like the drums in certain parts, and then just like really start to address the mix overall. And I think it'll help out a lot. It'll help get you a little closer to where you want to be with this. But I think that there's a lot that's going on with this that I dig. So yeah. The snare, it sounds, I'm not exactly sure what it is about it that I don't like, but it just doesn't sound, there's also something with the fidelity of the actual snare that kind of feels off to me a little bit. Yeah, just like the quality of the sample sounds kind of like not up to par. But yeah, I love the track. It's cool. It's got some cool stuff going on with it. Thanks for sharing it. Next up, let me get this one. We got you there, Bethany. All right, so we'll delete that. That's great. Bethany, how long have you been producing for, if you don't mind me asking? It's amazing. I mean, the fact that you're making something like this a year into it, I mean, just keep going. That's all I got to say is like, I remember there was a time when I was starting out with producing that like, I'd have some similar types of problems with just my mixing ability and my ability in terms of like picking stuff that sounded like it all kind of fit together. I think that's like getting back to like kind of the sound selection. I think some of that has to do with like the way it's all gluing together, and a couple of the choices that you made kind of didn't feel like it really fit with the song in like a cool way. So I think it's all this stuff. It's just ear training, practice, and you're on your way. Like, I just keep going. I just want to encourage, really just like do nothing but encourage you, because I feel like you're doing, like I said before, you're doing a lot more right than anything you need to address here. So just keep at it. All right. Thanks for sharing that. So who's next? Let's see. This is starting to bother me just a little bit, so I am going to turn it down just a little bit. I don't want it to feedback also when I do the what do you call it? It's the hang on a sec. Where is it? Am I in this one? Hello, hello, hello. Yep, it's up all the way. Cloudlifter is going to help with this, I'm sure. All right. So next up, we got who's up next? Next up, we got Michelle Campaign. Let me make sure you don't have another track in here. Cool, just one. All right, great. Michelle, you're up next. Looks like it's a Spotify link. So we'll give this a shot here. Here we go. Pull this open. Okay, play that in just a second here. Let me just get this in the list, the gold list. Okay, close that. There we go. All right, cool. I feel like this is a beautifully recorded song. It's got a kind of a T-Bone vibe to it. Got a lot of like warm analog kind of vibe to it. A lot of like nice ambient vibe as well. I feel like the vocal sounds, I mean, the vocal sounds like it was recorded in 1998 in terms of like the style of the vocal. There's definitely like maybe a hair too much vibrato on the voice in places, but I feel like for the era that it was recorded in, I feel like it's kind of like maybe what that sound was like back then. Yeah, as far as like in terms of like modern licensing, I feel like maybe a song like this is a hair too slow, like developing. It takes like 1 minute and 41 seconds to get to the end of the first chorus. Yeah, just something to think about that I'm not sure. But I think like the air and the atmosphere of the whole thing is cool. It would have been nice to like take another listen for the lyrics, but I feel also like it's kind of hard with a song that's like, what is 98? What year is it now? I mean, this is like the song's like over 20 years old. It's kind of, it's tough to evaluate from like a modern licensing perspective because it's like it was just created in like a couple of decades ago. So, I'd just say like in terms of like the production quality, I think the production quality is cool. And this style of production could work in the modern licensing world. I think the type of song you would write though would be different than this type of song necessarily. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what I would say to this. It's just like the way in which the song is written and kind of I think it would be like more of like, yeah, just the songwriting would be different. I feel like to a certain extent. And, not to say there aren't tracks nowadays that still have this kind of T-Bone feel to it. But, I think I would just like kind of find those references and kind of write in those styles versus like a style that's a little, obviously it's like 20 years old. So, but I think like for something that was recorded 20 years old, it holds up. Like, I feel like it's a well-recorded song, and I think you should be proud of the work you did. It sounds great. I think if somebody's looking for something that's like super period, this thing doesn't scream out the 90s to me so much. That's the one issue I would say, like in terms of like if they were looking for something that was from the 90s or something like that. It doesn't exactly with the production scream out that it was recorded in the 90s, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I feel like if you had like perhaps a different singer, perhaps a different top line over this, that it could be, or just like a different way that not even necessarily a different singer, just a different top line and maybe just change the stylings a little bit on the way it's sung. It could still work. In terms of like modern licensing, but I just think, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Anyways, I think it's beautifully recorded, and I love the sound of it. Whoever put this together is a very skilled producer. So, and yeah, the harmonies were beautiful. I love vocal harmonies so much. It's like a perfect marriage of two voices. I feel like as like butter, so, and that's what you want with like a very intimate, like exposed performance like that. Is just I feel like whoever tracked that vocal did a really great job. So yeah, tip my hat for sure. Next up, we got, who's up next? Next up is Mark Stone. Mark Stone, cool. Okay. This is a work in progress. Strengths, weaknesses, just wants my thoughts. Okay. Mix 2. What's this say? Hang on a sec. This track is an updated mix of something previously submitted. Okay, cool. Let's pull it open. By the way, somebody commented earlier that I look like I'm getting healthier and in better shape. I think so. I think this standing desk is helping a lot. Believe it or not, I was so pathetically out of shape. I feel like I was even for like a week or two was kind of struggling with just standing up for somewhat extended periods of time. I played dodgeball a couple times since then, so maybe it's making a difference. I feel healthier. Let me just find the where is the document that I have for, I'll find it. Here we go. Cool. Drop this in, boom. All right. Good. I'm glad my skin looks healthier. I spend a lot of time thinking about my skin, just kidding. It's usually like whether I have like a somewhat shaven face or whether it's just like, you know, mountain man neck beard is pretty much the decisions I make pretty much when it comes to my skin. All right, so Mark, we're gonna spin you now. Let's give this a spin. Cool. Why am I not seeing the window? Ah, here it is. Cool. Every day with you is like Christmas.
It was about a year ago. You and I were so far from home, and your eyes looked so sad when you said, "This year it doesn't feel like Christmas. There's no snow on the ground, no presents under the tree. So I had to write you this song. Been singing it all year long. Every day with you is like Christmas to me. I don't need no fancy wrapping paper to remind me. It's better to give than to receive. I don't want to decorate a tree. Your love is all I need. Every day with you is like Christmas to me. Every day with you feels like Christmas. Every day with you is like Christmas to me. You're all I ever need. You're all I've ever wanted. Every day with you is like Christmas to me. You don't need to fight the lines at the Mega Mall. Want it. Every day with you is like Christmas to me. Every day with you feels like Christmas. Every day with you is like Christmas to me.
Who doesn't love a good honky tonk Christmas, right? Yeah, I love some of the lyrics there. I feel so. I love the sentiments about it. Feels like a Christmas song. It feels like it's missing some of the Christmas touches you usually hear on Christmas productions. I thought there was maybe like some kind of fire crackly kind of sound at the beginning, but that was actually super distracting to me. I would have liked like a little bit more of like kind of a festive kind of cheery kind of jingly kind of vibe to the track. Because the lyrics are fun. The lyrics are like upbeat and happy, and I feel like it's only kind of halfway getting there in terms of the production. I did notice like right away, and this is something that people will notice, when the thing that kind of can separate sometimes like an amateur type of production versus like something that's like slick is like there was a really noticeable noise floor to the production that did not sound like analog warmth. It actually sounded like it was kind of harsh, kind of noise floor. This can come from like, I'm not sure what your recording setup is. It can come from like just having like a pre that's not built for like it's just not like at the level where it can really compete. But I don't know, there was definitely like a noticeable, there's other things that can cause it too. I'm not saying that's the only thing, but could be something to do with your, just the cables you're using, or like noise coming from your rig. But it was noticeable. So I would try to clean that up. As far as like the reverb, I would really work on the reverbs on that. It's not the best reverb I've heard. I think you can find a reverb that is like I was talking about on the previous call, like having some complexity to the reverb, maybe blending a couple of different types of reverb, like one that has like kind of a longer tail, but then also one that that kind of is like maybe a little more immediate, and then maybe even having one that's even longer, and just like really tastefully blending them in. Just being a little more subtle too with the reverb. I feel like it's kind of hitting you over the head in the mix here, and it kind of muddies up the vocal a little bit for me. As far as some of the instrumental performances, I noticed are a little bit out of the pocket. So that's something I would probably look to address in terms of like, I especially noticed, like, I think it was the acoustic guitar in a couple of parts was noticeably out of the pocket. As far as like the overall, like, I feel like the overall, the overall approach, I feel like you could take this and kind of make it like just even more fun, especially with the vocal. Like, I feel like the attitude of the vocal should be like, I'm doing for Christmas, like something that's like a little bit more like rambunctious, something that's a little more like, I feel like it needs a little more attitude, maybe. It just doesn't feel like it, like the energy of the vocal like lifts up to the fun potential that the song has. I feel like this "Every Day with You is Like Christmas" to me is a great. I feel like it's a great sentiment, and I feel like if it was done well, you could do something with it. But I feel like overall, like, I think the production, it goes from like the ground up with the instrumental track to like the vocal production is like just injecting more fun, more energy into it. And yeah, I just think that like once you do that and you work from the ground up in terms of the quality of things, you're going to eliminate the noise floor, and you'll have like maybe a little more firm foundation to build up from. But yeah, I think there's a lot that I like about it. I think a song like this, if it was done right, could work in some ways for licensing, for sure. They're always looking for Christmas songs to put in different background scenes, or like you could see in like a movie that has like a song that has a movie where it's like there's a romantic aspect to the Christmas thing. I think it could totally work. The update has bells. Oh, okay, cool. I don't remember hearing bells in this one, but yeah, you got to be kind of careful with how those blended into. You got to be a little careful with it. So just be careful when you do blend them in to not hit people over the head with them too much. But yeah, Hallmark kind of movies, sure, you can see something like this. Yeah, I keep during this stuff, I have to kind of keep people muted, just because otherwise people unmute themselves on accident. And but I also have to kind of keep things going too, because we got a bunch of songs, and I don't, as much as I like hearing people's perspective on things, it's we gotta keep things going too. So but yeah, Oh, okay. Well, I feel like this was the link that was sent to me, and this is the feedback I have on the link that was sent to me. So, but like, obviously, if you want feedback, more specific feedback on this new version, just tag me in a post, and I'll definitely give you my 2 cents when I can get around to it. So, but thanks, and also just don't be afraid to lean on the group for support with that as well. It's what these groups are for. We're all here to help and support and cheer each other on. So yeah, I think you're on you're on the way to something that's cool and unique, and you just gotta, I think, like, work a little bit more on the production side of things. I think will really help lift a track like this up to where it could meet more of its potential, I think. So thanks for sharing it, though. All right, what's up next? Next up, we got Jared Wells. Jared Wells, let's see what you got. You got anything else in the queue? Jared, maybe. Yeah, it looks like you got 3 songs in here, so I'm gonna get, I'll just play the most recent one here. Okay, get this all queued up. All right.
Baby girl got some. She the one keep the thing jumping. You know what it is, you know what it is. If you feel sick, she the medicine. She don't care what you say. Better get out the way. She ain't gonna waste no time. Can't get her out of your mind. She got confidence. Never seen so much confidence like that. It's no argument. Why you gotta go and play hard to get like that? She got so much class. Never seen nobody with so much class like that. Where you get all of this? She ain't really hard to miss. That girl so dangerous. She's nothing you can tame. She's so fabulous. 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 She don't need nobody when all is said and done. Sorry, she's not sorry, 'cause you know she's fabulous. 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 Bang, bang, yeah, she do the thing. The girls say they wish they could be just like that girl. She came through and she saving the day, and she ain't even got no cake. Shorty on the wave, yeah, she in a whole nother lane. She's nothing you can tame. She's us.
Hey, yeah, so there's really a lot of stuff that I love about this. I feel like the flow's great. The top liner is really like on point in terms of like the delivery. And yeah, I feel like the track's dope. I buy it, you know. I feel like for a song like this, I feel like the thing that I'm having I really like the confidence thing is really cool too. Like I wanted to hear like some stacks behind that, like confidence. I can't remember exactly what the top line was that. But I felt like there were parts where you could have like more like a gang kind of thing behind to kind of help support the vocal. And then the other thing I was thinking that would really maybe help this is maybe a reevaluation, slight evaluation of the like kind of the structure of it. There's a part of the song that feels like it kind of meanders a little bit to me. It's kind of like a post. It actually like feels like a post that comes in after the thing where it goes confidence. It's almost like that kind of felt like the chorus to me, and then whatever happened after it was not as hooky to me. So it almost felt like a post or a bridge, but it kind of meanders a little bit, and it kind of changes up the chords a little bit, and I feel like it kind of, for me anyways, kind of loses some of the momentum that the track builds up, and it does a great job of building up. So that's my thoughts on things, is that I really like a lot about the track, but I feel like you could still develop some of the vocal stuff on it. And then you could also potentially restructure the song a little bit, because I feel the strongest hook for me is like the kind of the second thing that comes in, that confidence, and the back and forth with that was not as strong to me as, or was way stronger to me than like the actual, you know, I suppose it's the chorus because it's what the song is titled, the part where it goes fabulous. So that's, for what it's worth, that's my opinion on it. If I was working on a track like this, I'd suggest maybe even like possibly like either re-top lining that part, or figuring out some way to restructure the song so that you know, you can kind of set that up as the chorus, and not have like, I feel like the other thing kind of steals some of its thunder. And then what ends up happening for me is it feels like the song just kind of, like I said before, it kind of meanders a little bit, and feels like it's a little out of focus. So, but other than that, I mean, I feel like the production is really dope, and I feel like, you know, as far as the top line goes, I think it's great, and you're delivering on the vocal front. I feel like it's just maybe giving it a little more help with some cool emphasis on different things, get some gangs in there, and I think help with a little help with the structure. I think it'll turn out like it'll be like a little closer to reaching its potential for me. But I dig it, you know. Thanks for sharing it. Very cool. You're talented for sure. And then also, since it's got like a female empowerment theme, you may want to include some more like, I don't know if there are some female vocals in there. I can't remember, but you might want to include some like prominent female vocals in there too, is just a thought. Or more prominent. You could possibly even have like a feature of like a female rapper or something like that. Might be cool. Or you know, some type of play between you and or whoever's top lining it and the yeah, just like a little bit of play. Maybe you could write a new chorus and have the chorus be sung by a girl. So just some thoughts. You know, maybe have an open-mindedness to try some different things. See if you can kind of one up what you've got here. So awesome. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. We'll keep going. All right, got about a half an hour here. We're going along. We're spinning the hits of tomorrow, today. The greatest sync hits of tomorrow. Spun every week. Next up, who's up next? We got, okay, that's it. Delete. Okay, cool. Next up, we got Lisa McEwen probably. Apologize for that if I messed up your name. Let's look you up. Make sure you don't have multiple songs in here. And if you do, okay, cool. Looks like this is off of YouTube. All right. It's called December again. Looks like it was maybe released in 2018. Cool. Let's give it a spin.
I can hear silver bells wrapped up in a blanket, watching the snow falling down. Headlights glow through the window pane, making fresh tire tracks, turning up the driveway. When it feels like an old familiar song, when every house feels like a home, when strangers have the face of a friend, it must be December again. It must be December again. People brush past my coat in the shuffle of the crowd. They all search the shelves for something that can't be found. It's in the memory, in the same house feels like a home. And it must be December. And I know you can't be with me now, but it feels just like you're here. When it feels December again, it must be December again.
Cool. Well, Christmas songs, appropriate. We're getting into that time of year. Yeah, I feel like you know, the vocalist, beautiful voice. I feel that perhaps in the context of the arrangement, which is just a simple like piano voice arrangement, that perhaps the vocal at times feels overly emotional, a little overly sung. Maybe it's just it's like, for me anyways, like the raw emotion that I'm hearing in the voice feels like more appropriate for something that's like more a full-blown production. Doesn't really feel necessarily to me like, anytime I'm hearing like kind of a piano voice kind of track, you almost want to contextualize it like it's almost like a live performance. And I feel like some of the nuance that would typically be there with like an exposed kind of lower key performance is not there, which is understandable. It sounds like it was recorded in like a studio in like a booth or something like that. Sounds like it was fairly well recorded. I think there was like maybe for me like a little harshness in some of the parts, some of the peaks of the vocal. I probably would have searched a little bit around and to see like where exactly it was like there's some kind of harmonic distortion with the vocal that kind of felt a hair harsh for me. And you know, I felt like as far as like a Christmas track, this is something that certainly like supervisors and agencies and just are looking for songs when they are Christmas songs. There usually needs to be something that kind of signifies, aside from just the lyrics being about Christmas or about the holidays. There usually is like needing some type of production touch that kind of like spoon feeds it a little bit that this is a Christmas song, whether it be like, you know, bells or jingle bells or gongy kind of things, or just like your typical, you know, percussive kind of sounds that you hear in Christmas songs. It was maybe missing a couple of those things. The one thing I was also thinking with this, and I'm not sure, is the very first thing that is that a public domain song? If it's not a public domain song, you may actually like, it might make it harder for you to clear this song. It might actually make it impossible for you to clear the song in some cases, because, you know, the budget isn't there to clear it. So that's something to factor in when you're kind of borrowing a piece of another song. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that would factor into things, but actually I would probably steer away from doing a move like this entirely. Because in a way too, it's almost like, hey, it's a Christmas song because the intro is like a very recognizable Christmas song. It kind of like, in a way, it's almost like a false start to a song too, because like, if you're playing the main melody from a very well-known Christmas song and then you start singing a different song, there's a little bit of a disconnect there too. That maybe people are expecting that the song is actually going to be the song that the intro is kind of hinting at, and then it turns out it's a totally different thing. I think there might be a better way for you to kind of like you know, give people a cue that this is a holiday kind of song, and maybe just some more production touches on something like this could help with that. And but yeah, you know, I feel like you know, you could certainly try pitching this stuff. I'm just like coming from this. Anytime I see people in the chat, you know, always trying to be helpful, and I appreciate that. You know, you could certainly try to pitch something like this, and sure, you know, keep in mind, this is just my opinion on things. But you know, it's also, I'm basing my opinion and my experience. It's based on my experience with producing this kind of stuff. It's based on my experience of talking with people who make decisions on these kinds of things, and kind of what they're looking for, and all the briefs that I read when they're describing the kinds of Christmas music that they're looking for. So yeah, just keep it in mind. It might help to address some of this stuff. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, I felt like it's just like, yeah, just I feel like the production kind of needed to develop more in order to kind of justify the upped intensity of the vocal. Was kind of my feeling. Yeah, but you know, the sentiment felt perfectly like, I loved it. Like a lot of the lyrics were like perfect kind of Christmassy kind of lyrics, hinted at all like the kind of checked off a lot of the boxes that you would want to have in terms of like some of the thematic things that you'd want to have in Christmas lyrics. So yeah, you know, I feel like it's a nice effort, and the vocal, I feel like the singer has a great voice, and you know, might be a case of just needing to rein it in a hair, and just maybe in a different context, a vocal like this could be powerful, and you know, it would actually feel a little more appropriate to me. But yeah, you know, I think it's there's obviously a lot of artistry involved in this, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. So thank you. Let's see. Next up. All right, next up we got Jamie Kyson. Looks like it's your only song in the queue. Let's give it a try. Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and spin it.
It's just you and I, isn't it, old friend? We've been here before and we'll be here again. Time has changed us, but time don't heal. We've been through the struggle, looking for something to feel. Teach me to fly when the angels call me. Teach me to soar when the road gets long. Teach me to dream despite these battles. Teach me to fly. Teach me to fly. Another lover, another day, punching at air, feels like life's passing away. Will it get better before I grow old? Need to soar when the road gets long. Teach me to dream despite these battles. Teach me to fly. Teach me to fly. And you know I'm gonna be all I've become. And shout gets long. Teach me to dream.
Yeah, so I think a track like this, it looks like it was produced 3 years ago before the course started, and yeah, it's, I'm obviously like, you know, I'm the first question that usually comes out of my mouth. You know, if there's one question that comes out of my mouth that you could guess, it's probably like, what are your references with this? So it's like, I don't really know anything about the gospel world. I don't really, Catch the Moon doesn't really pitch a lot of that kind of stuff, but I would venture to say I'm not certain. I feel like there's some issues with the way in which this is tracked, particularly the vocal. I'm hearing some issues coming up that would make me think that maybe this could be executed a little better in terms of like just the way in which I'm hearing some plosives that are coming through in the vocal. I'm also hearing there's some sibilance that is a little displeasing to the ear. And I think that like one thing that the engineer might have done in order to kind of address some of this is apply a de-esser. But it sounds like to me that in a couple of parts, there's like a noticeable lisp with the vocal. And this can actually happen as a result of like too much de-essing. So it could be a thing where like the engineer was trying to tame some of the sibilance that was coming through, and then they ended up like hitting it a little too hard, and then it ends up like almost creating like an artificial kind of lisp to that's not actually there. But there could also be like the vocalist may actually have a lisp. You know, it's just like it's a noticeable thing for me in a couple of parts in the track. And then a little bit of that same, like I've talked before, it's like maybe a little bit too much over singing, a little too much vibrato with the vocal. I feel like for modern production, you want kind of a smoother vocal delivery, something that's like a little less over the top. But then again, I don't really know much about the gospel world at all. I know what I know of like alt gospel, and in terms of like, there is a large market out there for Christian and like other gospel types of like networks and TV shows and things like that. So I can't speak for that. I don't really have any experience with landing placements with those, but I just think like the first thing that kind of struck out to me was that there were some issues with the way in which the vocal was recorded, I feel. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, Jamie. I searched for you and I didn't see any song listed under your name. So apologize for that, but we'll get you next time. So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, anytime if somebody is up and you have another song in the queue, the thing that can really like help me know whether you have a more recent song in the queue is actually listing it under the same name, like exactly the same name. Because I do like what I do is I do a find and replace, or I do a find search. So I just search for the same name, and if you put it under a different name, then what can happen is like I just won't see that you have a more recent version of it. So yeah, sorry about that, but yeah, it's good to still get one of your songs spun, and yeah, so people can check you out. And thanks for sharing that though. All right, who's up next? We got Andrea Del Pilar. Every Time. Okay, cool. Let me see if I got a different, more recent song in here. Andrea, if you do know that you have a more recent song in here, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to spin the one that we have. There's Andrea Del Pilar, and then there's Andrea De Boer. Those must be different people. Okay, well, we're going to spin this one. Every Time. Here we go. And I'm gonna, for this next 20 minutes, I'm probably gonna pick up the pace on things a little bit, just so that we can see if we can get through a few more songs. You know, like to see if we can get through, do a little bit more of a speed round for like the last 20 minutes. See if we can get some more feedback for some more people, and start to knock out some of the queue a little bit. Let's see, Andrea, here we go. Let's share it. Here we go.
When all my life was darkness and it was a sad and hopeless, you were here with a big heart. Your smile was my religion, and every time I thought of you, and every time I called you, you were here. Inspiration when the music light was going, you gave me your affection, love without pretensions. And every time I thought of you, and every time I called you, you were here. You decided going your way. You were in a different this time with all my heart. And now that you're not here,
Okay, so I feel like once the track gets started, that there's like I really dig once the instrumental track gets started. I really dig the instrumental. I feel like it feels full. It feels fairly well mixed. It feels there's enough organic, nice mix between the organic and kind of the more electronic elements. I feel like it all kind of glues together well. Yeah, I feel like with this one, the main thing I'm hearing with this, with the vocal is, there's first off, oh yeah, another thing with that, there's just as a note, there's like a noticeable amount of dead space before the song actually starts, which is a little like you kind of want, like as soon as somebody presses play for the song to actually start playing. So there's like kind of a noticeable dead space there that you might want to take out. I feel like the vocal, there's a little bit of harshness, especially when the vocal starts to really kick up into that big, like, taking off, kind of soaring voice part, like towards the ends of those kind of the ends of those chorus lines, those chorus parts. I feel like it gets a little like kind of on the harsh side. Once again, like I said earlier, like I'd probably be searching for whatever those frequencies are that are kind of grating a little bit and a little bit displeasing. I feel like as far as like the vocal goes, it's a little tricky because and I've had this come up a couple times, like when I've worked with somebody where it's there's just like some English language, like when in just like the way the words are being pronounced. It's very clear. It just gets it can get a little distracting for some people when the way in which the words are sung. It's like it could just be, I mean, obviously just it's like it seems like there's like an English language kind of challenge with the way this is being sung, and I feel like it's something that it actually kind of gets in the way of the delivery of the vocal. So it's a thing. It can be delicate, it can be very sensitive and tricky, and I don't know what to say other than that. Like it's a thing where it can be hard. I mean, people literally spend they can spend years like taking classes on like how to remove like a foreign accent from an English language track. So I think somebody who's like expecting like an English language track, it might be hard for them to use a track like this because it's a little harder to tell what's being sung. I just think that's probably going to be an issue for this one in terms of like pitching it for stuff. So that's like, I understand like how sensitive a topic that can be. And I've actually had a couple sessions where I've had to coach like very delicately and compassionately, like just, it's like try to do the best you can to coach like the performance that you want out of like, just like these subtle, like little differences in terms of like the way a word is being sung. It's a tricky thing, especially like, I mean, for example, like me singing something in Italian, I'm sure there'd be a lot of coaching that would need to happen in order for me to pull that off. So, but I do think it is a noticeable, potentially detracting factor in this track right now, the way it currently stands. So like that's just my opinion, my take on that. But I understand like how difficult that can be, like to pull off. But yeah, I like as far as like the top line itself goes, and the emotion of it, I think it's great emotion. I feel like it's got a nice dynamic. It kind of lifts up. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot, like in terms of like the melody of the top line that's working. I feel like the track is cool. I just feel like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what the solution is for something like this. It might be, depending on who you're marketing this song to, it might be better you could potentially get another vocalist to do a version for English language. Maybe you could do a version in another language. There's options, you have options with this stuff, or you can just really get some, somebody who specializes in getting kind of like can coach you through some of this and get it a little like some of the pronunciation on things a little closer to where like people who are listening for like English language tracks will be like, okay, this is like kind of in the I just feel like it kind of goes a little bit outside of the threshold of what people would expect for like an English language track. And I feel awkward even like talking about it, but it's like, this is the best I can do, is just be honest about like, just my experience with all this. I've had a couple times where I've had to coach a vocal, and it's tough. It can be tough. Like I said before, people sometimes take classes that can take years to kind of take some of the acting classes, and some people just like take language classes to remove accents. It's not an easy thing to do. But I appreciate the song so much. Thank you for submitting it. And we'll just keep going here. Let's keep going. Next up, we got Barbara Lee. You are up next. Let's see if we got any other tracks in here. Cool, got another one there. Looks like you've got like 5 in here, so I'm gonna just play the most recent one here. This looks like an unfinished production. How to make it more sync friendly. Okay, cool. Oh, let me just pause that real quick. And let's share this. All right, cool. I feel like the track's really dope on this. The instrumental track is great, and I feel like the cuts, the vocal cuts, mostly work. I feel like there's one part on the vote that's like, "Will you cut?" It almost sounds like that cut part. It detunes in like a way that feels like it maybe rubs against the track a little too much with the detuning on it. It's off in pitch and it sounds like it's intentional, but I think it kind of rubs, for me anyways, that is like the only part of the track that I feel like kind of sticks out. I like a lot of the detuned stuff in this. I think it's part of like what makes it weird and interesting, aside from just being like a straight kind of, kind of club kind of sounding song. I feel like what could potentially help it is like just with that could you whatever that last syllable is, maybe playing it a little straighter with the tuning, because it was kind of, it felt like it was just barely outside of like what felt like good to me in terms of like every time it happened I was just kind of like just a little bit, but I felt like there is so much that's going on that's great about this track. Like I feel like it just sounds like it's professionally produced. I feel like it's a cool track. Like certainly, like for somebody who's looking for this type of music in a scene, I feel like it ticks all the boxes. And maybe if you wanted to address that vocal thing that I was talking about, it might be helpful when you're pitching it. But then again, that's just my opinion. But I think it's a cool track. Yeah. I feel like it's a good production team, whoever's working on this one. So great job. Next up, give me just a sec here. Do a little bit of cleaning up. Boom, boom, boom. See how simple that hook is and how catchy it is? It's just a very simple hook. Sometimes the best hooks are like the very simple ones. So you don't have to go crazy and overboard, just something that's like memorable. And notice how much space there is with that track, but how I feel like effective the top line is. When I'm talking about relationship between the vocal and the track, this song, in a way, it's like almost like a minimal vocal. It's a very minimal vocal. And I feel like for the most part, it's super effective, you know? All right. Almost there. Give me just a second. I think I got it. All right, cool. Who's up next? Up next, we got Michael Rafferty. Let's see what you got in the queue. Hang on a sec. Looks like you got possibly 2 songs in the queue. No, this is just one. Cool. Let's give it a spin. Got time for at least a couple more. All right, give me just a sec here. We'll share it. Coolio, here we go.
Sick and tired, cause I know it just ain't my style. I'm gonna shed this skin, gonna begin again, cause I'm sick and tired, being sick and tired. Huh, yeah! Huh, yeah! When it began, but I think it was before I was 10.
Yeah, So a track like this, I feel is good. I mean, you'd hear a song like this being in like a bar scene or something like that in the background. Yeah, I feel like for blues rock, it's feels like it's fairly well executed in terms of like the instrumental performance. I think there's some mix issues with this. The drums feel a little dry, and they also feel a little bit separate from the rest of the mix. The mix doesn't feel super glued together to me. But, you know, as far as, and also here's another point that I wanted to make. I like the, what is it, like, huh, yeah, but it sounds a little too much like, fuck yeah, to like, for you. I mean, I feel like it's too similar in like the sounds of the syllables. I feel like it wouldn't fly as like a clean song. And perhaps it has to do also with like how it feels like the vocals are not like super up front in the mix. So it's like a little hard to kind of make it out a little bit. So I feel like you would run into some issues with this in terms of like pitching it for anything that's, you know, maybe it'd work in like a vocal version of this could work in like a movie or something like that. But as far as like, they tend to be pretty selective in terms of like using profanity in movies, because they only have a certain number of cuss words they can use before it bumps them up in the ratings and all that stuff. And in network TV, you can't really use it at all. But then, you know, there's other types of shows that could use something like this. I just feel like, yeah, just something worth considering on the licensing side of things, that could affect you. I'm not sure you could get away with a clean version of this in some cases because it sounds too similar. Yeah, I think it's just mostly like mix issues for me. I think a better mix on this would make a difference in terms of just its ability to be used. Yep. So let's see if we can get at least another song or two in here. Let's keep going. Thanks for sharing that, by the way. So much great music every week that we get to listen to. It's great. I really appreciate all the talent and just everything, all the effort that every one of you puts into this. I mean, I know all too clearly how much work it takes to put any one of these songs together, and I really appreciate the time and effort that it takes. And I also appreciate the courage it takes to submit, because while we do have a lot of songs in the queue, I can guarantee you not everybody in the class has been submitting songs. It takes courage to do it, so thank you for that. Let's play at least one more. Let's go to Adrian Zolandic, I think is how you pronounce it. Let's see. Make sure. Okay, it looks like that's the only song from her. So let's open it up. Okay, the song looks like it's called For Your Soul. Copy and paste this in. All right, let's share it. Here we go.
When I wake up and see your smiling face, though you're not all together awake, I can see it too.
this one, I feel it's the same question I ask a lot, which is what are the references? I feel produced like 3 years ago, it looks like, and released. So before the class was taken. So it's just like going back to your references in terms of modern licensing. I feel like the sound of this and kind of the production approach feels, once again, this is kind of a common thing that happens, I find, is that the acoustic rock kind of thing, kind of vibe can kind of play into things. And there really isn't a huge demand for that kind of music right now, and there hasn't been for a while. And I feel like this kind of falls into that same kind of category of like acoustic rock that was maybe super popular like 15 or 20 years ago. So yeah, I kind of feel like that's kind of like the ballpark that this is kind of sitting in. The vocal itself feels a little, there's some mix issues with this track. I feel like there's a little bit of maybe the vocal's too hot in places, and then there's a little bit of sibilance that's just kind of sitting there, and it's on the cusp of being like way too much, but it's could be tamed a little bit. I think if I was engineering this, I'd once again just go hunting a little bit for some of that to kind of smooth it out a little bit. This is an example as far as like when I talk about it's very important to have like a relationship between the top line and the track, and so that there's like there's like a lot of like play between like the top line and the track, some give and take, a relationship. This track feels like the vocal is almost always happening. So what ends up happening is it just keeps going, and then there's kind of no reprieve from it, and there's no opportunity to kind of take in what's being sung, what's being delivered. And I feel like if this track, if you were writing a song and this was like a work tape, the suggestion that I would have would be to like, shorten up your phrases. It'll make it so you don't have to have a bunch of crazy vibrato at the end of your lines to kind of keep it interesting. And then also the other effect of that is will be that there'll be like more opportunities for there to be edits. There'll be more opportunities for there to be kind of like an emotional kind of consideration of each line as it's being sung, and then giving the listener a little more time to kind of take it all in as you're singing the top line. So that's my thought on that one. I think I hit everything. Yeah, I think more than anything though, it all goes back to references and writing around. And this is what we teach here at Catch the Moon, is like you gotta kind of know what the target is and then go from there. And you'll end up with something, if everything is executed the way it can be executed, you'll end up with something that's marketable, that there's a market for. And yeah, I think it's just such a great learning experience. I know that a lot of people have been, some people in the newer course have been submitting a bunch of songs that were like produced like a while back. And I just totally understand that, by the way. I hope nobody takes any of the stuff that I'm saying about your tracks, whether they were produced like 2 years ago or like 20 years ago personally. But I'm just approaching things from like modern licensing, what I'm hearing every day, what I'm working on every day, what lands placements that I've had success with, my friends have had success with. That's where I'm approaching this all with. So, just take my 2 cents professionally about it from that perspective. And other than that, take what you like, leave the rest. It's an honor for me to be able to listen to your songs and hopefully give you some feedback that's helpful. I think that's, you know what, I'm actually going to do one more because it's been, got a little bit of a late start today. I'm going to do one more and then we'll call it a day. I've been talking since like nonstop since about 10 o'clock this morning. So I love doing it. I love this job. I'm not complaining, but yeah, I got one more song in me, and then let's wrap this up. Oh, I'm happy to, it's nothing. As they say in Italy, di niente. It's nothing. All right, who's up next? Lala Deaton is up next. Here we go. You've got 2 songs in the queue. Let's see if make sure this one opens first before I close. Yep, looks like it does. Okay. If Girls Ruled the World, New Bridge. Okay. I may have heard this song before, but we're gonna roll with it. I think the first couple weeks I did this, I was not searching to see if people had a second song already in the queue. So if it's something that's obvious that somebody's song has already gotten played on this, just let me know, chat. But we'll just go ahead and spin this here. If Girls Rule the World, New Bridge. I'm assuming it wasn't like resubmitted because usually the ones that are resubmitted have like or newer submissions usually have some notes in it, and this one doesn't have any notes. So here we go. Let's share it. All right.
If girls rule the world, a girl like me who's not afraid to dream, not afraid to seem a little bit different than the world wants her to be. There wouldn't be rules about the way we look, 'cause we don't always wanna play by the book. Step outside the line, take a stand for what could be. Girls like me, we rule the world. Our voices could be heard. So take to the sky, let your wings fly. Nothing's too absurd. The girls rule the world, so come on, girls, let's write our song. 'Cause in our world we all belong. There's power in us, rule the world. Wouldn't it be a sweet release to find the beauty in us all? Let's shine a light on all our differences that make us strong. If girls rule the world, if girls rule the world, voices could be heard. Voices could be heard. The rules about the way we look at different than the world wants her to be. There wouldn't be rules about the way we look, 'cause we don't always want to play.
Hey, yeah, so I definitely don't mean to like, you know, I just say this a lot, but it's like that B. There was a ton of vibrato on that line. I think this is actually a perfect example of where you could choose to cut the line off and let the track breathe, or fill the entire line with a vocal and then put some type of, it's usually vibrato that happens to kind of make it sound a little more interesting. I feel like the production choice there, or like just the top line choice there could be, you know, maybe the more modern way to do that would be to just like cut the line off like after it's sung, as opposed to like holding it out really long. So yeah, this track has some of those things that I talked about before in terms of like the vibrato in the voice, maybe a little bit of over singing with parts of it. I feel like the message of the song is cool. The thing that I noticed instantly on a production level, which you don't want to necessarily notice, is like there's like a really kind of, it's like a super phasey feel to the vocal, almost like this is what it sounds like when things are really kind of canceling each other out. So what might be happening here is the entire track might be run through a doubler of some kind, and it's maybe calibrated a little too heavily. It's just causing some very weird phase effect that's really weakening the power of the vocal. What also might be happening is there's just maybe maybe it's a doubled vocal that's like hard panned, both takes are hard panned like dead center, and they're maybe a little too far off from each other, and they're phasing in like a really weird way. So I'm just venturing to say like what happened there, but it's very noticeable, and it doesn't sound great in terms of the vocal. So yeah, busy top line. I feel like structure-wise, a song like this, you've got some nice dynamics going, which I think is great. You've got like it kind of chills, it kind of simmers up. There's some transition moments that are happening. The lyric, is it absurd for girls to rule the world? Yeah, I didn't. Unfortunately, it's like when I'm giving it one listen, the thing that I probably have like the hardest time doing when I'm listening to everything at once is listen to the lyrics on top of everything else that I'm trying to process. So having the lyrics handy and checking them out is usually pretty helpful for me. But yeah, you know, lyrical choices can be really important because, like you said, like I'm not sure exactly what the lyrics were there, but it could like you can very easily start to undermine whatever point you're trying to get across. If it's kind of phrased weirdly, or if it's phrased in a way that's like, yeah, you know, I think it's, you could be onto something there, Patricia. But getting back to like what I noticed when I was listening to it, yeah, just in terms of like the builds, I felt like the build, it was kind of building up to something. And then it was almost like what happened earlier on, I can't remember the name of the track, but it was this, that dope track that had the flow on it, where it kind of like made like kind of like it kind of veered in a direction structurally that kind of felt like unsatisfying to me, and it kind of let me down a little bit in terms of like, I feel like it lifts, this track kind of gets up to a place, and then I feel like this is where the chorus is really going to take off, and then it doesn't quite do that. It kind of, it comes back down. And then when it comes back in the second time around, there's like some stuff that's different, and it doesn't really build. And then it goes off into this, like structured wise, it kind of introduced what sounded to me anyways, like in terms of the electric guitar sound, like a very dated kind of distorted electric guitar that really, you know, I felt like some of the elements in the track felt fairly modern. And then, but that part of the song was really where, for me anyways, I was like, it kind of stuck out in terms of like that it's sounding dated in terms of like, yeah, just the guitar tone and just like the way in which the track was kind of built around, it just felt a little dated to me. So yeah, that's my thoughts on like, and I felt like as a move, it's a bold move for sure, but I felt like it kind of, it just didn't work for me because like if it was like a really wild, cool, like modern sounding guitar sound, maybe, who knows, maybe that would work better for me. Maybe that would be a cool departure, but I feel like it builds up, then it kind of, before what feels like the payoff could be, for me, it kind of goes back down, and then it comes back up, and then when it kicks in, like it kicks in with something that's like a little, it's a little dated for me. Yeah, let's see what else. I think I touched upon everything. I do like, I feel like some of the things that this track is doing well is it's playing with dynamics. It's building. I noticed some transition kind of elements to your tracks. You want to have transitory elements in your tracks to kind of cue the listener that something exciting is about to happen. Something's going to happen. I feel like and I agree too that the theme, thematically, it feels like it's on point. And I'd need to listen to the lyrics a little more closely. Have more listens and the lyrics handy to be able to input on, like, you know, where that all was. And unfortunately, don't have time for it, but yeah, you know, that's my thoughts on that one. Yeah, thanks for sharing it. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, it's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure to be able to listen to your songs and just humbly offer my opinion on what could make them better for licensing. And yeah, so, you know, until next week, we'll be doing this. We do this every week. Keep submitting your songs, and yeah, have a great rest of your week. Hope you have a really productive rest of the week, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.